guys, welcome back to the Yes You Pod.
The podcast where we put you back in community. I'm Evie.
And I'm Emily. And we're here for our 12th episode. I'm so happy. Yay! So happy to be here, guys. It's been such a crazy week. Evie, how are you? I miss you.
I miss you too a lot. It's been a crazy week. But we're here, excited to be here as always, ready to get into some girl chat, ready to
Yes.
just dive deep into these
Amen.
topics. But overall, I could say that my day today was pretty good. But how are you? How was your week? How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh. My week has been crazy, 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 crazy. I've been at church more than I've been at home. I've become Abby Lee Miller. No, I've
Oh, I love
become
that. No, don't be Abby Lee.
Miss.
You're
No, I'm not
Maddie.
Abby Lee. I'm Maddie. I've literally become Maddie in the span of a week. I don't get it.
Love
Um,
that.
but Lord knows. I don't. I really don't. Um Crazy, crazy stuff. I'm going to Ohio next week.
Come
Guys,
on.
I feel like I'm doing like 17 side quests right now. You know when you've
I
seen
love
those
that for you.
memes? Those memes where it's like I don't know, those like video games where it's like there's like a main quest and then you talk to different NCPs and you're on 17 side quests. That's what it feels
I
like.
love that for you. Truly.
It's crazy. But I'm great. I'm here. I broke my phone. Yeah.
Ugh,
If you guys know me, it's a running joke that my phone is
your phone
unbreakable.
hates me. It hangs up on me every time I call
Yes.
you. Every
It
time I
hangs up
FaceTime
on
you, we're literally
everything.
like deep conversation and boom, hangs up. Like,
Yeah, she's
no
jealous.
filter.
Like she hangs up on people. She autocorrects to bad things, like not even like bad words, but like crazy things. I'm like, you just screwed up the entire sentence. But she's
She's
finally
AI
kicking the
on her
bucket.
own.
She's for real. No, no, no. Like I for real. I believe in FBI agents now because of this freaking phone. But I'm finally getting a new one. She's finally like, kicking the bucket. And I've also like I've had her without a case for like a good minute
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the case broke before her. Like, can you believe that? That's crazy.
She's crazy.
But I'm literally gonna bury her in my backyard. I'm gonna have a whole ceremony. I'm so
I love
serious.
that. I love that.
Oh my gosh.
It's you like
No.
the you should keep it though. You never know, one day someone might want your iPhone to be in a museum
True.
and your broken
That's true
iPhone, but
though.
uno
I
nunca
could sell
sabe.
it on eBay for $200. Somebody would get it. That's what I'm saying. Like it's so broken to the point like I'm fighting to even have it like turned on. Earlier today, I was on a phone call with my boss. Sorry, we're gonna get into the today's episode, but
Right.
I was on the phone with my boss, and I was like, "Okay, like thank you so much, bye," and it hung up by itself, and I didn't get to hear her say goodbye, and so I was like, "That was." I'm like literally the Lord saved me because if it would have hung up on her, like that would have been bad.
Mid sentence. Ugh.
Literally, I hate that. That's why I've been like scared to call people all day. But thank God it's been working. Like for the past hour, in her final hours, she's acting good.
She's thriving. She's
She's
hanging
yeah,
on.
she's going out swinging. So,
I
but
love that.
yeah. So next time you hear me and see me, I won't be different. I won't sound different, but I'll have a new phone. So
Come on. Those
there you
that
go.
picture quality gonna change.
I'm ready to vlog, girl. I'm ready to be one of those
I
vlog
love
girlies.
that. I wanna
I
see
can't
that.
wait. Yes, ma'am. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited to get into today's episode. It's one of those topics that it's spicy. Every week we get spicier and spicier. Um, and this week we're gonna talk about toxic relationships. And as we
Oof.
all know and love and hate as well, it's something that toxic relationships can be mentally, it can be abused,
Right.
physically, it can be short term, long term. It really can be a lot of things, but I think it really is defined by um, how much those relationships take and how little they give. I think that's like
Yep.
my best explanation for that. But just to jump right in, Evie, have you experienced or have had like a breakaway from a toxic relationship recently?
Um, I want to say that my I've had a I don't know how to describe this. I'm like, which way do I want to go with this? Um,
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes you can always pick up on toxic traits, but you don't realize you're toxic in the moment because you're just like immune, if that makes sense, or
Yeah. Makes
used
sense.
to something. Um, so I want to say I'm not going to bring up an example that I'm thinking of because I think it's too fresh for me. But I'm gonna. I had a
Discretion.
friendship. Yes, just for the saints. Um, I had a relationship, a friendship, um, a few years ago, and I didn't realize how this person was kind of like always pushing their own agenda, um,
Mm-hmm.
or just didn't have not a like boundaries, but they didn't have like respect for me
Yeah.
in a way that I would have respect for them.
Yeah.
And I think being in a situation with someone, which we've talked about, who is not
Mm-hmm.
the who's not there for you. Maybe I'm talking about physically. Like if I'm
Yeah.
in a bad state and you're with me, like are you gonna allow me to be in a bad state or are you gonna help me?
Exactly.
And so I had a friendship where we had like a situation and it just didn't end well. It didn't end well. And I was like, ugh, I hated it. Like I hated being in that moment with the person. And I hated the aftermath. Like trying to
Yeah.
like reconcile that. If I wanted to, I did. It didn't work out. Like we're not friends. Um, but it was like me realizing after, like, that was not good. Like someone that is
Right.
pushing their own
It's always the
agenda on
after.
you, yeah,
Right.
then your eyes are open all of a sudden. But in the moment
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is so great, like this is fun, or oh, they're
Right.
just like that. Which yeah, people can be have strong personalities, but being toxic, like there's a difference between like having a
No.
strong personality and having like a personality that is harmful to your spirit or like
Exactly.
harmful
100%.
to who you're trying to be. So yeah, I it's not super recent. I think we stopped being friends like I want to say it's 2 years ago. I still think
Okay.
about this person. I still pray for this person, but it sucks. Like so that's
Yeah.
for me that was like a hard thing, especially with someone like friendships. But for you, Emily, like have you ever experienced a relationship recently that was kind of toxic, whether it was like a friend or a group of friends? Um, what would that be for you?
I feel like recently, again, I don't want to like air it all out. That's for the post
Air it out.
podcast.
I'm like air it
I don't
out
want,
as I say
yeah,
nothing.
air
As
it
I say
out.
nothing, I'm like yeah.
No, but and this is more like it's not, we can be vulnerable, but there's still like, just have
Of
respect for
course,
people's privacy.
exactly.
Um, but I think I definitely have recently kind of been made aware of some things in a certain relationship that were not okay. Um, like what you described, it was always me reaching out and
Yeah.
not necessarily like effort from the other person.
Hmm.
And I've, mentioned here and there, but I don't think I've gotten to the point where, not gotten to the point what, I don't think I've had a relationship where I've been the first choice.
Okay.
In the sense of like, now recently, yes, that
Hmm.
I've been, and then it's more like, being okay. I don't need to be, everybody's number one.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and that I've been okay with that more recently. But
Yeah.
I've also been noticing when I'm not even number 2, 3, or 4 on someone's list.
Mm.
Um, and definitely, I feel like that specific relationship, I've gotten to that point where it's like, okay, like if I don't reach out, you don't reach out at all. Um, and I don't think it was until I had to have a rude awakening, which I know
Mm.
we've talked about recently, where
Yeah.
it was like I put myself where like I didn't even text them and I got nothing from them.
Right.
And that was where it was like, oh, so if I didn't go through the situation, you wouldn't have reached out, kind of thing.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
I think that's definitely been something that I've been experiencing more recently. And I know we like briefly mentioned it before the podcast.
No, no, yeah.
It was
It's
like a
okay.
little pre-comment, but yeah, that's definitely been something that I experienced recently. But yeah,
That's
no, this is so. Ooh, it's a
it's so
lot.
it's a little tea is piping.
I know.
Um, but it's like you mentioned, sometimes it's I don't want to say like everyone not everyone is like this. It just it's a few special select few that are have these toxic traits. Um,
Yeah.
whether they realize it or not, it's just frustrating to be on the other end and kind of like I I know for me personally, I overanalyze everything and my own emotions. I'm always in my head. And so I expect the person that is in the situation with me to at least acknowledge the fact that, hey, I've made a mistake. Hey, I've done this. But like
Right.
you said, when there's nothing in return, when there's maybe not an apology, maybe there's not communication, um, the people that end up feeling hurt is just us. And I think it's just
Right.
because of the heart that you have. Like I think that it's because of the I don't want to say expectation that we put on people, but yeah, because you
It
already
is.
know
No, yeah.
that as a person, you deserve people in your life that are going to treat you the same way that you treat them, or even better. And like you said, it's not about being, second or third on someone's list, but it's just being like respected. It all boils
Right.
down to like respect. Like, do I respect
And
you
being
enough to
seen
tell
as a
you that,
person.
hey, exactly, like, do I respect you enough to tell you, like, I don't feel good about the situation? Like, I don't feel good about
Right.
this, what we're in right now. Like, that's the kind of relationships that I want, like, to cater to.
Right.
Like, are we going to be real with each other or are we going to just pretend that this is okay? Because let's be honest, if we don't, like, what's the word? Like, we don't express how these traits make us feel, or just having this talk with somebody yesterday, is going to
Mm-hmm.
continue. Like it's just
Right.
going to continue. And then we're going to be the ones ended up hurt because we never nipped it in the bud. And then we realize when we do, the person doesn't even want to talk to us because they're like, oh, like
Right.
they've always felt like this or something like that.
No, yeah, but it's true.
But yeah, that's crazy. So I just wanted to share that because I was like, yeah, as we have such big hearts and it's frustrating. It's super frustrating, but it's also like I don't, it's not even our fault, but I could say it's like a tit for tat. Like I didn't tell you, and now I'm stuck with you, like acting this way and thinking it's
Right.
okay. But sometimes it's good to have those people that are honest and just tell you. Like I'd rather someone tell me, even if they told me late, that what I was doing was bothering them or I was
Exactly.
toxic. So that way I could fix it for the next relationship that I'm in, whether it be a friendship or one that I already have. Um, but yeah, crazy stuff.
This is
Yes, ma'am. But uh, what was, or if you have like one, but the earliest relationship you remember that you felt was kind of toxic, whether it be like in your childhood or even like if it was like earlier this year, just something along those lines.
I feel like my earliest like I can remember was definitely oh no. I had a plan. I had a plan and I don't know. I don't want to air people out on here. I think okay, I will say. The first experience like that I was like, "Oh, okay, like this is not okay." Um honestly. extended family. Oh, wait,
Okay.
I'm not gonna name names, but like seeing the stuff that my parents went through with my family, it was like it was like sad and hard because you that's your family. Like you want to be around your
Right.
family, but it's also stuff that you didn't realize as a kid. And now
Uh-huh.
growing up, you're like, oh, that's why. But
Ugh,
as a kid, it was like
yes.
that first initial, like, why would they do that? Or why is it like this?
Hmm.
Because that is your family. Um, and not to get into specifics, but I remember having harder conversations with my parents growing up because
Yeah.
it was just like they couldn't really explain why. Because I'm not going to
Yeah.
understand at,
Of course.
10 or 11 why I can't be around certain people.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like that because they were not the people that needed to be in my life in that season. And I think it started with them having a toxic relationship with my parents to have a toxic relationship with me.
Mm,
Um, and honestly, it can be by extension, honestly,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
like
I felt
everything,
that.
like if you're connected, like literally, you need to be, and we've talked about this before, where it's like the people that you have around you affect you, but even the people that are around the people you're around affect them and then affect you.
Yeah.
And so it's
Exactly.
like it really is a
It
chain
trickles
reaction.
down.
It
Uh-huh.
does, it does. And so that was definitely my first instance, I guess, where it was like these people weren't being helpful to my parents, or um, in the season that we were in, they were making them feel less than, or just different situations where it was like now I hear about it, and obviously I still love them, and those are my family members, but it's also at the time when I was younger and things were still happening. It was that moment where it was like, oh wow, like maybe even though they're my family, even though they might be good people, they're not the people I need in my life right now. And it
Right.
was hard. It's even harder to detach from people who are literally your blood. Like,
Yep.
it's not just someone that you can say like, oh, like I unfollowed them, I blocked them. Like,
You see
that's a
them all the
toxic
time.
friendship gone. You do see them all the time, exactly. And so that was definitely my first instance where I remember that. But what about you? What was your earliest experience with a toxic relationship, or a toxic person in your life that you remember?
Uh, spiciness. I'm gonna
I
throw it back
know.
to middle school. When I throw it back, I was gonna throw it back to high school, but I was like, no, let's start because it wasn't even like a close person to me, but
Hmm.
they were like someone I considered a friend,
Right.
I guess. So I feel like you mentioned in the last episode, I'm very vulnerable. Like I can get vulnerable very fast, which is very bad
Right. I love that.
sometimes.
No, no, no. Yeah.
But I think at the time I'm such an extrovert, but I was very extroverted in middle school. I was just talking to
Hmm.
everybody, and I really wanted to make friends, which I did. But it's like when you're a kid and you're just super excited about everything, so you tell everything to everybody
Right.
because you're like super excited. And I
Yeah.
just remember like being so extrovert about everything, like my faith, my life, which I didn't have a life, so
Hmm.
my faith was my life,
Yeah.
like which is a life, but like that's all that I was. So I was painted like that, like Jesus. And
Hmm.
I remember like telling this girl that I thought was my friend all about like what I would be like. I was like, oh my God spoke to me, like, but they didn't understand. Like, they don't
Yeah.
understand because they're not on that level spiritually. They don't encounter what you encounter. They don't believe you. Like when I tell you,
Yeah.
I got a prophetic word, like they're not gonna believe you. Like they just don't, nothing. Some rare, but this girl just was like, oh, okay, like, and I remember like I would get really sad and I would always text her when I was sad. And one day this guest speaker comes. If you live in Osceola County or Orange County, you know who Mark Marrow is. I don't know if you know who that is. This man is a like motivational speaker. He also like would tell his story in churches about like his whole life. He'd talk about like he was a pro wrestler and he would do all these things and talk about like how he was into drugs and all this stuff, but he was going crazy. And then like I just took a whole turn on this episode. But he would just say like his family was like he had like his friends were dying and his family was dying. Like it was such a sad story. But I remember he came and it was just like how he transformed his life. And
Yeah.
But when he would go to churches, it was like church related, like, oh, like I did it for like God, like, God. But it was in school, it was like, okay, like no drugs, like, I'm a good person, so they would change that. But anyways, when he came to the school for the first time, I was crying because I was like, wow, the story was so touching. And other people were crying too. Like,
yeah.
So I remember this girl was telling these people that I was weird because I was crying and that like a bunch of stuff about me. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt so
So where's she?
betrayed.
Okay, so we're gonna pull up.
Right. Where's she now? I don't know. Blah. But I just remember that, and I felt so sad and insecure because in my mind I thought this relationship was something that was healthy, something that I thought. I mean, as a kid, like you have friends here and there, but like I don't know, we were like in 8th grade, so like you're a little bit older,
right?
And so I noticed that first of all, talking behind someone's back, telling other people like toxic traits 101,
right? Of course, yeah.
And so I think that was the like something that I'll never forget because I remember her telling a friend of mine that like she said a comment and was telling people all this stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't want to talk to nobody ever again. But I think that was the earliest like friendship or relationship that I can remember that I was like, wow, like people can really if they don't understand something or don't understand you, they can make they try to make you look toxic to others or make you seem like you have something wrong with you, like but it's crazy, like deep down inside like there's something wrong with them. And not to say that obviously there's some hurt there if you're going and saying stuff, and even like you said the example with your family, like there was some hurt there, like that wasn't and that sucks, like as a friend, as a family member, like and anybody that's an extension of anything, like because it could get so far and you try really hard to like not let stuff affect you, but it's really not that easy. So yeah, I would say that was the earliest memory for me.
That's literally it, because it does start when you're around that age, because you start to realize things and pick up on things. And girl, like I said, pull up, because who was she to be talking about you like that? Like, first of all,
for crying.
Second of all, like no,
I'm just an emotional being.
Like, exactly. And I was having conversations with like my family even recently about that, where it's like a lot of times toxic people are literally, whenever people say like, oh, they're just projecting, like you don't realize how much like people project on the daily, like on the hourly, like it's so
that.
But it is, because it's like, and you know what, sometimes I be catching myself projecting sometimes too, but it's like it is so easy to kind of trick ourselves into thinking like, oh, we can talk about this person because they're doing something, but in reality it's because we're scared of doing that exact same thing, because either we've done it before or we're just ashamed of it. And it's crazy because toxic people want to hurt other people, like that's their idea in their mind, because it doesn't make them feel better. And I think in that situation it sucks, because I'm so sorry. I thought I heard a knock on my door. The Lord. Okay.
I was like,
never mind. The Lord.
You're good.
No, I was like, but yeah. So I think that it's so important that we recognized kind of early on. It's sad to have those experiences, but early on, it's once we realize that, I kind of think it stays with us. But I mean,
Of
honestly,
course, yeah.
sometimes it's bad though too, because like, which is actually our next question. Do you find yourself kind of falling back on or like repeating old tendencies, um, that you went through or that came out of your past toxic relationships?
I think that one of the main things that, like, I don't want to say it's a bad tendency, but it can be just to,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to say I look for the fault in people, or like look
Mm-hmm.
for their trigger or whatever it is. But I think I the people that I have close to me right now is because literally, like, I don't know how, like, because I
The Lord.
I feel like
Yeah.
I've kind of tightened my circle in this past year. Um, I've extended it a little bit, but I've also like tightened it to the point I'm like, but when it comes to like relationships in general, I think my bad tendency was overall just maybe just being too trusting and making sure that I'm not being too trusting like I was.
Yeah.
Um, because I can see how people can abuse that. And they take your maybe your innocence for granted or your lifestyle for granted and think because um, maybe for an example, because I am the way that I am, that what they do is okay because they're with me, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Or because the way that I am the way I am, they know that I'm not going to judge them. I mean, they can do whatever
Mm-hmm.
they want and say whatever they want and feel like I don't care. But of
Right.
course I care. Um, and so I think for me, the tendency is like allowing it, like not creating the boundary, or just being too trusting. And I think based on my past relationships, and I've seen how I am and how I let
Mm-hmm.
people get by. Now I feel like I'm like, okay, now like I'm gonna nip it in the bud. I'm gonna
Yeah.
detach. I'm gonna set that wall. I'm gonna talk about it with them or whatever it is. Um, so I feel like now, not so, I don't feel like I'm falling into it as much, but I can say it's only been in this past year. I think last year I feel like I was again still kind of too trusting and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But that would be for me. I think my bad tendency was just that. But what about for you? Like, do you feel like you had it or have it still? Like a kind of like a bad
Honestly,
tendency or habit?
yeah. I think, okay. I think if we're being, okay, consistently, not all of them, but
Mm-hmm.
consistently a good amount of the relationships that I found out were toxic or that I needed to like leave, they all started with a lie or a group of lies
Okay.
or some kind of
Mm-hmm.
story, I guess. And like being more specific, I think I've talked about struggling with, perception and building stories and building personas, so people can like me. And I'm full on testament to that. Like, I'm being very honest. A lot of times it starts with me doing that or the other person doing that or
Right.
just a building of, you know, people who are not. And I think the worst tendency that I kind of got out of those situations was now thinking that everyone now is having a persona.
Mm.
And
Okay.
it's bad because I kind of put myself in a position of like everyone else around me is coming with a story instead of it
Mm-hmm.
being we are all just trying to figure out who we are.
Right.
Um and I think recently I've been trying to give a lot more grace to people but it's still that like noise in the back of my head where it's like, oh, like just be careful because what she said there was a little sketchy. Like, do you
Mm.
think she's talking
Yeah.
about you, or do you think that she's being fake? And it's also this like, I don't think I've had people do a complete 180. I feel like all the relationships that I've got out of, if I look through the books, it was a
Right.
kind of like compilation of things. But I know of people that have gone through breakups, friendship, romantically, familial, where it
Mm-hmm.
was like all of a sudden. And that for me produced a lot of trust issues. Because it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh, like, can I even trust people at all? Like, if one
Mm-hmm.
day they wake up and decide, like, I don't want to be friends with you, I don't love you, whatever, like, they can just do that. And for me, I think my worst tendency is that believing um, that everyone's the same. And I think in the society that we live in, it's very me centric in like, you are perfect, and which is true. We are all working at each other and we all have so much value and so much worth. But it's also this like, have you first, everyone else is a liar. Or
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
it's memes, it's jokes, but it's also this like, oh, I'm right, everyone else is wrong. And obviously like I joke
I
about
get
that
it.
because it's like as a ironic kind of thing, but it is that like this, um we're kind of all taught, I guess, to have this like, don't trust anybody, everybody else is a liar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that also produces that, I think I've
Mentality,
been
of
in
course.
way yes, I've been in way too many friendships where it has grown into something that makes me annoyed,
Uh,
or like me being hurt, but it was because I started out with some kind of, I don't know, I guess agenda, or trying to make this person like somebody that I'm not. And when I look back and I choose to be who I really am, I'm like, me and this person actually don't click.
yeah.
And I think that's like what's the worst part of it. Like, even through that, letting go of that or those relationships, um, it's a look back of like, I could have let them a minute ago, but it's still this like, I have to hold on because these people are still important to me and stuff like that. So
Right. Right.
I think
And
that's
it's
my yeah. Go
and
ahead.
it
Sorry.
no, no, you're good. I think it's so what I think is so it's not even what you said, like it's all based on like what's most sad to me is that we have this such and I'm not saying you like everybody because it's so true. Like we have this
Mm,
such messed up view of people
yes. Oh my god. Yeah.
like already, like at first jump.
Yeah.
Because we can't trust anybody. Like you said, like
Right.
we as a society, like as a community, like we have major trust issues with everybody just because nothing. We don't even have to have a reason. It's just like, oh, like you could literally be in the store with somebody and be like, oh no, because me. Like like if
Yeah.
someone cut you like, oh no, because no, like we feel we have this I want to say we feel like it sometimes feels like we're born
Mm.
with this entitlement already.
Yeah.
Like we
No.
have this
Yeah. Speak on it.
entitlement mentality. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about me too because I'd be the first one.
Right.
Oh, but like I no, mama, because we
Mm.
because we
Yeah.
are messed
So
up.
true.
Because we're all messed up. We all need
So
help.
true.
We all think we deserve so good that we don't give anybody
Mm.
a chance to prove us wrong. And so we feel
Yeah.
the need. It's not even, I don't even feel like you're crazy or anything, or like, I don't even blame you for like even saying like, that's a big thing. First of all, kudos for you to even admit like the relationships are based on something that wasn't true. Like it makes
Yeah.
sense because sometimes we're so scared and we don't even want to be us.
That's
Like,
so, and it sucks too, because like thinking back, it's like I can pinpoint the moment where I either started to say like, and I've literally said this before, and my big thing where I'm in a season right now is like I have to uncover and go through
mm-hmm,
the nitty gritty of things, and in reality, it was stuff very small things, of me either trying to build up like, oh, I do this, or I get to do this, or I have this,
Yeah.
trying to build up like what I already have to be. It is trying to be a story and show face. Um and then kind of how it's gone down the line where it's like I've created a completely different person. And me
Right.
personally, I'm not okay with those things. Or
Yeah.
I it's not the things that interest me, it's not the things that I want to do. And it sucks cuz it breaks your heart when obviously different things add to that, separation or breakup. But as you kind of go down through the, I guess, calculations of it all, it's like it breaks your heart how much you spent that relationship, like almost like a play. Like you spent
Yeah.
building up things and orchestrating and trying to make something appear something else, and you spent so much time trying to build a separate person instead of being who you are. And
Yeah.
that is the worst, like, heartbreak, like worse than anything else is, you know having to look back and see that. And I think it's a big tendency that we all kind of have, like, in that kind of unconsciously.
Right.
But it's rough, but I think we do need to take those steps to, once we exit a certain kind of relationship, it is our job to start our healing process, and being able to know that, those toxic people or people that made us feel less than, or made us feel like we had to change ourselves, you know what we have to take from, because you don't have to take everything from that. You can take
Right.
some and leave the rest. You can take
Yeah.
the good times and leave the times where you felt less than a person,
Yeah.
and don't let that affect you anymore. But it's much easier said than done.
Of
um
course.
but yeah, girl, that's
That's so good.
mm.
And with that, like with what you just said, because it was so good, but I want to piggyback really quickly before we get into the last question. Just like you said, like to leave the good, like to take the good and leave the parts that made you feel less.
Yeah.
But also don't just reminisce on those moments that you treat it like and then you make it a habit, like we just talked
Oh
about.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
100%.
that's why I wanted to, because I've been there where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but I was treated so, like, you could romanticize a moment
Right.
or a situation, just like you said, like and then you end up like, wait, I don't even like that, or I don't even, that's not even
Right.
me, who am I?
Exactly. Oh
But
yeah,
I
it's
just,
spiral, but
yeah, a lot of spiraling. And I just remember like even, and I know we'll talk about it in a later episode because this is a whole other episode, but
yeah.
just being like in a environment that was so toxic,
Right.
um, and kind of just reminiscing only on the good, that you kind of forget, like, oh wait, but I was like spiritually abused. Oh wait, but I was like taken advantage of. Oh
Right.
wait, but I was a kid. Like,
Wow.
you don't. It's like you don't. You can be so in the good moment, which is great. Like, you don't want to dwell on the past either, but just
Right.
take the good moment, learn about the bad moment, but don't dwell and just think that the next time it happens, that it's gonna, don't let it happen again.
Right.
But that was really, everything you said was super on point, but it
Oh
caught me
my
because I'm like,
gosh.
dang, I've done that. Like, I've done that, but I did it the opposite way. Like, I took the good, but I took it too much. Like, I took too
Right.
much of it. But just with that, like, do you have any advice um for anybody on like recognizing these toxic relationships and just letting go of them, and then what that kind of process looks like?
I think you kind of said it so perfectly, like understanding that, um don't let these relationships affect you, like, you know don't take the baggage with you, but also
Right.
recognize what was right and what was wrong, because there is a
Exactly.
difference. And I think
Uh-huh.
we try to be very apologetic with people, with the, oh, they didn't really mean it that way, or they were still good in this. And in reality, there is good and there is bad.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you can have fun and you can laugh, but also the way they made you feel like you weren't enough, that is bad.
Right.
And that is not
Yeah.
okay. And that is not excusable. And so I think understanding and putting your foot down and being able to say, yeah, there are gray lines in the world, but white cannot be black and black cannot be
Uh-huh.
white. There
Yeah.
needs to be a separation. Sometimes they mix, sometimes it's a little, it's here and there because we're not perfect.
Right.
But there are things that you do need to have boundaries with, and that's what we talked about, in earlier episodes. Like, um, there are things that there just is, and I think a lot of times we try to bend it to try and give grace to a certain person. Obviously, pray for them, love on them, still treat them as a person. But I think the best
Right.
thing you can do is recognize that. And I think the biggest thing I can also say is um, understand that you're gaining more than you're losing.
Yeah.
Like, what letting go, you are gaining so much more than you're losing. And
100%.
you'll see that, and it might not be instantly, but it's going to be worth it. And I can say, like, recently I've had that experience where it was like, I now am kind of in a season where I'm getting new friendships and new, like, sisterhood. And that
Yeah.
for me means so much to me. But, and I'm going to be very frank and very here, the people that I used to talk to every single day, I don't talk to as much. And
Uh-huh.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I
Yeah.
think the same way that you let go, God is giving you.
Amen.
And you'll know it and you'll see it. Because God's not gonna, you're gonna have moments where you're gonna be alone. But God doesn't want you to be lonely. That is the
Right.
opposite of what God wants. God wants you to have community and have people around you that will uplift you and that will pour into you. Um, so don't ever be afraid of letting go, because I think at the end of the day, the things that you do need to let go of, you're going to gain 1,000 times more. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, that's my best advice that I could
That
give.
was so good. Good
What
advice
about
there.
you?
um, I love everything that you said about that and just about like the gain and not the loss. So I kind of just want to touch on the loss, mourn it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though the relationships were toxic, like at one point you didn't know it, and that's okay, and you felt good. And sometimes they were started good and they just ended up toxic. Mourn it like everything else. I think I'm learning now that I have to mourn everything, like, and not just like suppress, which I do a lot. Emotion for relationships or people, like that was a part of your life. Um, so like mourn the moment, mourn the relationship, and again, write down like what you want to gain from it or what you learned from it. I think a big thing that I used to do more that I haven't done is just write and just write about life
Yeah.
and what's happening. And it's good to like journal and reflect and be like, see what happened in this relationship, I don't want to repeat, or I
Right.
deserve better, or just not trying to like not dwell on the past by looking back on what went wrong. But there's been times in friendships where I can pinpoint moments where people have been inconsistent, and now I'm like really good at it because I already know it in the moment, but I don't say anything.
Right.
So when you're in those moments, you're like, okay, like this is a sign of something that doesn't deserve me. How am I going to go about it now? So when you recognize it already is the moment to jump in and nip it in the bud and just be like, okay, no, I don't deserve this. And this doesn't mean to drop the person, just make them aware if that's what you want. Um, it's situations like that that are, I think, tricky and hard because it's just a lot to go through. But like I said, I think when you mentioned, it's a more of a game than a loss, but and that process of everything, just know that what's coming is bigger and it's better every time.
So
But
true.
I'm so happy that we got to talk about this because it's a heavy topic, and
It
I think it's always just
is.
deemed like toxic, like it's such a bad thing, but it's like, no, toxic was once good. And we need to talk about that too. So,
Exactly. Oh my God, come on. That's so good. No, but and then appreciate every relationship. Learn what you must learn and let go and let God. But oh my god, I love this. Every time we talk, I feel like I'm being healed from something or something that I've been holding on to. It's like it's okay. Like it's okay to let go. It's okay to heal from
Right.
it. Oh my gosh, but I love you, Evie. This was so nice. I
It
need
was
it.
so
I need
good.
my like weekly refresh. Oh my gosh. Just
Yes.
like really for real, it gives me strength throughout the week.
Um,
But yeah, oh my gosh.
Guys, we did it.
Oh my god.
We're in 12 episodes.
Yes, this is
I don't even
really
think we mentioned that today. But I hope you just take a breath like I just did and
yeah.
just
Drink
uh
some
just
water.
reflect. It's been a week. But I'm excited that we were able to talk about this, and I hope that if you're going through a relationship right now that is you already recognize that it's not good for you, take those steps and just
Right.
reflect and talk it out with somebody, whether in therapy or with your best friend or with whoever it is, and just know that you deserve better. You always deserve better. Um, with that being said, guys, please make sure to like, comment on our Yes You Pod socials, follow us, everything on there. Share it with a friend. Let them know
Yes,
that we
please
post weekly.
do that.
And just, I don't know, just be excited because we're so excited every week too.
Yeah.
So just make sure you, again, subscribe to our YouTube at Yes You Pod, Apple Podcasts, rate the show.
Yes.
Let us know what you want to hear
Yes.
next. Timestamp every
Yes.
point that convicted you, called you out. Um,
Yeah. Let
and
us
yeah,
know exactly what you felt. And if you want to hear more of it, just let us know. And also, don't be afraid to DM us, send us a little message, whatever. We are here for you guys. We're here for you guys. By you guys, honestly. But yeah, oh my gosh. And we'll see you in the next episode. All right,
we love
guys.
y'all.
We love
Bye.
y'all. Bye.